All right, in this video, we're going to break down the 5 content games and which you should be playing if you're a business owner. Now, this is a very helpful framework I came up with to kind of parse out the different approaches that are happening on social media. When you look at social media, it can feel like everyone's playing the same game, but certain people are playing different niches, certain people are winning in different ways. Actually, if you zoom all the way out, there are 5 different types of games being played, people monetizing in 5 different ways. And based on what your goal is as a business owner and what your business or offer is on the back end, you're going to want to pick one of these 5 games and then play the game that way based on whatever the winning strategy is for that game. So in this video, I'm going to break down what those 5 games are, examples of people playing those games, and the prescription for how you win each game. If you want to see a visual explanation of this, you can watch this video, the first kind of main body point in this video. I talk about this, so we'll link that below. All right, so there are 5 core content games being played across social media at the same time. Depending on which game you're playing and your desired outcome, you should adjust your strategy accordingly. Now, this is really important. The factor that drove how I came up with the games is the desired outcome and business model. It's not exclusively the type of content. So it's not like only one game plays the entertainment content. It's more only a few games monetize with this business model, these games monetize with that business model, and based on the outcome you're looking for in terms of what products you sell and how the revenue flows, that's how you would pick the game. Okay, so the first game is called Mainstream Cult Fandom. And this can either be an individual building a personal brand or a more traditional media company. But the goal in game 1 is Mainstream Cult Fandom. This game is where a creator or brand is making videos with the goal of generating as many total views as possible. These videos are designed to span across categories. The goal here is peak fame and broad awareness. Now, some examples of people playing this game would be Mr. Beast, Charli D'Amelio, Dude Perfect, Barstool Sports, that would be like a media brand, Alex Cooper, famous person from Barstool Sports, host of a podcast, Chloe She, she makes content kind of breaking down her experience as someone in her 30s struggling with like transitioning to corporate life. And then Stephen Bartlett, who is the host of Diary of a CEO. These people are playing game 1. They're going for mainstream cult fandom. Now, the primary content types that you would make if you were playing this game would be entertainment content is the primary, or storytelling content, specifically from an entertainment lens, as the secondary. The goal if you're playing game 1 is to juice the views, the followers, and the engagement of your content as high as possible and as consistently as possible. By doing this, your fandom broadens, all your metrics go up, and the brands pay you more. This is the most important thing. How do you monetize if you're playing this game? And inversely, why would someone play this game? Depending on the business model they're running. The main way this game monetizes is via advertising. So this could be platform CPMs, which is like the social platforms cutting you a check as your share of the ad revenue, or really it's mostly from brand deals. And brand deals can manifest in sponsored videos, but also in-person activations, speaking gigs, kind of anything on the advertising side. Some of these people will funnel their viewer to other media properties, like they're on short form, they're funneling them to their YouTube channel, but rarely are they funneling them to like owned products, right? This is more of a media play. In this game, you're not really trying to ramp viewers to some other offering. You are the product. That's what a classic media company play is. Your goal is to create as diehard of a personal company brand as possible to drive max views and engagement that inflate ad rates. So the people that are playing this mainstream game, very clearly, they want mainstream fandom as an individual or a media company, and they're playing the ad game. That's why they're playing it. Now, if you wanted to play this game, and I don't recommend really anyone watching this play this game, but if you wanted to win and play this game, you want content ideas with the broadest possible total addressable market, or TAM. The biggest possible ideas, broadest possible ideas. The larger the TAM, the better you'll do. Categories like culture, music, money, sports, relationship, or health, they all tend to do really well for this game because of the massive number of interested people. Typically, when people make content, they try to cult hop and talk about celebrities or famous people across those big categories, and that's how they get more views. The goal here, if you're playing this game, is max shareability, max sensationalism, max comments, max total virality. I can't really like overstate. They're going for biggest possible reach at all costs, zero niching, zero category definition. All right, so that's game number 1. Now let's go to game number 2. Game number 2 is called Category Cult Fandom. It's like a junior cousin of game number 1. And this also can be an individual or a company. The difference between category cult fandom and mainstream cult fandom is that you're going for as many total views as possible within a single category. So rather than being willing to span sports and business and relationships, you're just going for one category, sports, or you're just going for science. You want as big of a possible personal brand on a media side in that category, but you don't want to go without. The goal is category fame and awareness. So some examples of people here in the categories they play in would be Dad Social, Cleo Abram in science and tech, me on the tech side. Game 2 is what I was playing on the tech side. Ryan 2, who makes videos for creators. Riley Brown, AI vibe coding. Kids Take Over, which is like a hip hop brand. Buy Maximize, which is life tips and productivity. Joe Cirillo, who is tech. And you could say Hormozi in business falls into this. You may make the claim he also falls into bucket 5, but for his short form channels, he's mostly playing game 2. So if you're playing game 2, what type of content do you want to make? Well, the primary content types for game 2 are going to also be entertainment content. They could be education content as well within the category, or storytelling. So entertainment, education, primary, storytelling, secondary, you're really trying to dominate this category. The primary goal here is you also want to juice views, followers, and engagement as high as possible, but you have to stay within the guardrails of your topic category. Hormozi tried to broaden and go outside of business. It didn't really work. And so he's kind of come back to mostly being within the business category. When you play this game and stay within the category, it's easier for fans and brands to bucket you into a topic vertical and know you for that. It's easier to be branded into a niche than mainstream fame. If you go outside this category, it's not going to be helping you long term. Now, again, what is the primary monetization vehicle of this? Why would you pick to play game 2? You would pick to play game 2 if you want to play the media game. This is the advertising game. You make money on your platform CPMs and your brand deals. Again, sponsored videos, in-person activations, speaking. Typically, you are renting ad space on videos from brands in the category, and you're getting paid accordingly. Typically, game number 2, the category fandom, is more lucrative than game number 1, holding audience size constant, because a targeted audience will attract more specific brand activations. If you're the 100,000 follower wellness person versus the 100,000 follower mainstream celebrity gossip person, you're going to make more money on the wellness category instead of the broad pop culture, mainstream fandom category, because the wellness brands know your audience cares about wellness. So all things held equal, number 2 is more lucrative than number 1 typically if you have the same audience size. Again, in game 2, you're not really trying to ramp viewers off of the social platforms. You are the product. You get paid when they watch your stuff. Your goal is to create a diehard personal brand as big as possible within the category to drive max views and engagement. Now, how do you win game 2? Because I played game 2 and I kind of won game 2 per se within the tech niche relative to what I was trying to do. To win game 2, you want ideas with the broadest possible TAM within your category slice. So if I'm playing in the AI niche, it's only AI videos, but how can I get the most possible views on my AI topics? The larger the TAM, the better you do. The more painful the topic, the better it is, right? That's what you kind of go for in game 2. The goal for game 2 is max shareability, max sensationalism, max comments, max virality. It's the same thing as game 1. You're just narrowing it down to a single category. And the strategy really for the content is to look at which videos you're making that are driving the most views and followers and double down on those. If you're disciplined with topic selection, followers is the best metric to study, as it represents an indication of not wanting to miss more with respect to what content is working for you to win on game 2. Okay, so that was the first 2 games. Both of those games can be categorized as media games. Both players in both games win with advertising and media revenue. They're not trying to ramp people to their own products and services. It's mostly meant to monetize their attention on the platforms. Okay, now let's go to game 3. This is where things start getting different. Game 3 is called Intuitive Products. This can be a solo creator, but typically this is a company or brand. The description of this would be, it's a creator or brand that makes videos with the goal of driving as many possible conversions of an intuitive consumer product. Now, when I say intuitive product, what I mean is this is something that doesn't require educating the buyer on how it works, just making them aware of how it exists. So this could be like a CPG food brand, a clothing brand, a furniture brand. The example I like to give is, if you make sofas, you are an intuitive consumer product. Someone can see a sofa and they immediately know it's a sofa, and they know a sofa is for sitting. You don't have to educate them on how a sofa works. That's why it's intuitive. So all you have to do is make them aware that the brand exists and make them like the brand for them to transact. Typically, the products that fall into intuitive products are almost always B2C, as B2B products typically need to be explained. Now, examples of creators or brands that make content in this game today that do really well, this guy LC Sign Tony, he sells neon signs, but he's he's like an individual creator that drives people specifically to transact on the neon signs. Elwood Clothing, Wants and Needs Clothing, George Heaton, who has Represent Clothing, Midday Squares is like a chocolate company, and Oakley Sunglasses, everyone's familiar with that. All of these companies sell products that are immediately intuitive without needing to be explained. Clothing, you see a shirt, you see a hoodie, you know what a shirt and a hoodie does. So there's something you have to do to make them aware of it and make them like the brand, but you don't have to educate them on how the product works. That's kind of where Game 3 plays. So if you're an entrepreneur or a marketer watching this and you have a brand and your product falls in this category, you're going to want to play this game. Now, the primary content types for playing and winning this game would be entertainment content is the primary, utility content could be the primary, or education could be a backdoor secondary game. Typically, you see people playing the entertainment game when they have intuitive customer products. Now, what is the primary content goal here? The goal in Game 3 is to drive as many possible conversions to your intuitive product as possible. These conversions can be through direct attribution, where a user watches a video, goes down, clicks the link in bio, and buys immediately in the same session. Or it can be multi-attribution, where a viewer sees a video, likes the brand, sees 10 more videos, follows, maybe they Google it, maybe they buy. All that still falls into the intuitive product strategy. The goal is to have a product link in bio or a simple funnel through a relevant lead magnet where you can get activation to convert quickly. Typically, intuitive products are purchased based on vibe and lifestyle fit. Because people know how they work, you don't need to educate them on how a snack food brand works. They know you eat the food. So the reason people buy is because of vibes and lifestyle fit based on the content. Now, the primary monetization vehicle, obviously, of Game 3 is going to be product conversion. Accounts win when they get more products purchased. They could also win by funneling people to deeper forms of media, so going from short form to like long form or short form to email, but that's more of a secondary thing. The big point here is that these brands don't really care about making money via media. They're not doing brand deals, they are the brand. They don't care about AdSense, that's just icing on the cake. The cake is driving conversions of their product. It's a completely different strategy with Game 3 versus Games 1 and 2. Now, how do you win Game 3? There are several different ways to play Game 3 if you're a brand who sells an intuitive product. One way is to make entertainment-focused content. Content like skits or GIFs or clips or influencer collabs, social shows, any type of entertainment style content that you can build a world or a set of characters that the viewer wants to be like. Because buyers buy off of vibes in this category, in this game, more than any others. So that's one way. That's typically what you see from these types of brands. The second way would be utility-focused content, where on your channel as a brand, you make content to showcase the practical utility or use cases of the product, so that viewers can understand and see the product in action. This typically only works well with certain types of categories. Like you would see maybe the Oakley sunglasses would make like a utility video that show them being worn. You typically don't see this with clothing brand, right? Clothing brands almost always do entertainment focused content. Now, you could also do entertainment or education content at the category level. This is a bit meta, but instead of focusing on the product in the video, you could have an individual creator make educational entertainment content at a category level and use your product as a prop. So an example of this would be George Heaton is the founder of Represent. He makes content about his own life where he wears Represent every single day. He doesn't really talk about the rep clothing from a utility or entertainment perspective, but because he shows it, he becomes a canvas for it. This is a way that you could make content to kind of showcase these intuitive product brands. As a brand, if you're going to do this, you're better off just paying one-off influencer collabs instead of running this as your core strategy in-house, unless you have a founder that wants to kind of play this role. So there's several ways you can play this game if you're a brand that has an intuitive product. If you do, when you get to the one-on-one strategy call with me, we can kind of break down how you should play it. Now, importantly, to win this game, you want ideas that have the broadest possible TAM within your buyer slice. So you know who your ideal avatar is, your ideal buyer avatar. You want the broadest possible TAM ideas for that avatar. The larger the TAM, the better. With intuitive products, conversion is just a math formula. A bigger top of funnel is going to result in more conversions because the product utility is implicitly understood. When it comes to a sofa brand, we just need more bodies in the top of funnel. And as long as that conversion holds and we're kind of good at making top of funnel content, it'll work. It's actually the simplest game to play because right away, you know you're not optimizing for media revenue, so you can just target the avatar with all of your ideas. The goal here, again, is max shareability, max comments, max on-target virality, and max vibe fit. Every video you make, you want to signal the vibe that the customer would feel, because this game is mostly won and lost based on vibes. Ideally, you're running a video-by-video tracking link so you can attribute spikes in conversions to particular videos and use that data to double down. This is like the granular strategy for how I would play Game 3. All right, now let's go to game 4. There's 2 more games left. Game 4 is very similar to game 3. It's called explanatory products. The only difference between game 4 and game 3 is that these products need to be explained. These are creators or brands that make videos with the goal of driving as many possible conversions of an explanatory product. When I say explanatory, it's something that has to be explained. So like creatine gummies or peptide shampoo or standing desks. Nobody knows a creatine gummy versus a vitamin, right? So you have to explain, what is a creatine gummy? How does it work? What is creatine? You have to do education. You have to explain what the product is. Nobody looks at a desk and knows that it stands. So you have to explain how the utility works. The products that typically fall into this category are some B2C and almost all B2B products. Almost all B2B products have to be explained. There are things that can be converted on a single session though, but it has to be explained. So these would be brands like AG1, which is like a daily wellness powder, or Grüns, Create creatine gummies, Higgsfield, which is an AI tool, Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses, Figma, the design SaaS. These are things that are not immediately intuitive on just seeing it with zero context. It needs to be explained. Now, the primary content types that this game would use is education and entertainment, and they would use utility secondary. The reason education is primary is because you need to educate on how the product works. The primary content goal of game 4 is the same as game 3. You want to drive as many conversions as possible via either direct attribution or multi-touch. The goal is to have some way for the person to go down the funnel and convert on the product via the content. It doesn't have to be direct, but you need some way for them to get there. Again, the primary monetization vehicle here is going to be product conversion. You could route people to deeper media if that's the strategy, but really you're not making any money on media and you don't care about media. It's all about product conversion. Now, how do you win game 4? The strategy kind of differs here because you have to educate the user on the product. There are several ways you could play game 4. The first is education focused. Because the buyer needs to be educated on why the product is compelling, the best way to close that gap is through education content. Now, this education content can be done through a single in-house creator that runs the channel like it's their own. And if they did that, they would kind of be playing either game 5 or 2. It could be done by a single in-house creator that runs the channel one level up and infuses the product where necessary. So for AG1, instead of making every video about AG1, you kind of have a creator that owns the market of healthy supplements and then includes AG1 where relevant. I don't recommend doing this if you're a brand because you're just gonna have too many videos that are off target. Or this can be done by collabing with other creators in the wellness space in this example to share their educational content about the product, and you use an organic and paid mixed influencer strategy. That would be another way to do it. Those are the 3 options for playing the education game. Now, you could also do entertainment focused content where you make content like skits or GIFs or clips or influencer collabs to try to craft this world like you were doing in game 3. This is going to be a little bit less effective than game 3 because sometimes it's tough to communicate how something works when you're making entertainment content, and these products won't be bought unless people understand how they work. The last way you could play this is utility-focused content, where you make content to showcase the practical utility or use cases of the product so the user knows how to use them. These are the 3 ways. Again, if you're a brand and you're selling an explanatory product, you're not in bucket 5 or 1 or 2. In the one-on-one, I can talk about the exact content strategy that I would run to best drive people into the world. Now, similar to game 3, to win this game, you want ideas with the broadest TAM within your target buyer slice, but specifically targeting the pain points or desires of those people that your products would solve. You have to connect the product to pain points because they're not sure how it actually works. When you're a clothing brand, you don't have to say your fits are bad because people can see the clothing and interpret that on their own. With explanatory products, you have to do that a little bit more. So in this case, typically conversion is going to be based on multi-touch because the viewer might need a few pieces of content to fully understand what the product is, why it's needed, how it works, and you're going to have bigger top of funnel to be able to get more of that exposure. The goal here, though, is still max shareability, max comments, and max on-target virality, as it always is. For game 4, just like game 3, the best way to do this systematically is to be able to track performance on a video by video basis. So if you could track sales and attribute that to video by video, you would then know which videos to make more of. That's going to be a bit muddy on short form. So you may just want to track conversion to a lead magnet or conversion to an email list signup. If you can do that, that would be the best way to kind of double down on winning videos. If you can't do that, views is the proxy metric for doing this in a bit of a more crude way. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the analytics, as well as a little bit later in this module, how to build the system around evaluating which pieces of content are working and how to double down. All right, so that's game 4. So as a summary, before I go through game 5, the first 2 games were a media play, advertising play. mainstream fandom and category fandom. The second two games were more of a product-focused play, intuitive products or explanatory products. If you have a product at the bottom of the funnel that can be instantly transacted, you're going to fall into one of those two buckets. Everything else is going to fall into bucket 5. And this is where most people watching this are going to want to play. This is what I call authority building. This could be a creator. It could be a faceless channel. It could also be a company. Game 5 is where a creator brand makes videos with the goal of building deep trust and authority around a specific category or topic. Where the goal of Game 2 is to build breadth across a specific category, the goal of Game 5 is to build depth and expertise. Fundamentally, the difference between Game 2 and 5 is the way the value is transferred to the viewer. You can build cult fandom in both, but only bucket 5 gets you authority where you're positioned as an expert. So if you're trying to sell info, courses, coaching, agency services, anything that requires the viewer trusting you as an authority, you're going to be playing Game 5. You're not going to be playing Game 2. Examples of this would be Rourke Heath in the Gen AI space, Xander Whitehurst in the design space, Gannon Meyer in the content automation space, Ava in social media growth. You could say Mike Calloway marketing and social media growth falls into this as well. Max Sturdivant in email writing, Shelby Sapp in sales, or Oren Meets World in marketing and brand. If you're trying to build a personal brand authority, it's going to be this game. Now, the primary content types for winning this game would be education content and storytelling content. Those are the two you're going to do. You're not going to play entertainment content because that does not accrue authority for you. The primary content goal here is this. You want to drive as many possible conversions to an email funnel or low ticket product as you can. This is an instant conversion down the funnel, not an instant conversion on the product. Typically, you're going to directly attribute a video to a lead, a video to an email. That's what you want as much as possible. The goal is to have the best lead magnet in bio and a simple funnel from video to relevant lead magnet to remarket via your email list. You're selling stuff via the email. The goal of the videos is to get their email as much as you possibly can. Now, the primary monetization vehicle of Game 5 is product conversion. You may win on the side with occasional media revenue, but really you're trying to get people to go down the funnel and buy whatever products you have. You can also send people to deeper media if you want. In this game, you are trying to ramp viewers off the social platforms and into your own world, email, private community, anywhere else you can, as much as possible. Now, how do you win Game 5? The way to win Game 5 is education. And education content can be delivered two ways. Either educationally focused, where you're sharing non-obvious and tactically implementable solutions to solve the core viewer's pain, or storytelling focused, where you're telling a story from your own first-person point of view as a rapper to deliver educational value in a non-obvious way. To win this game, to win Game 5, you have to have ideas with the broadest possible TAM within your buyer slice, where you also have something non-obvious and tactically implementable to add. That's really critical. If you just make videos for your buyers in the TAM, but you don't have anything interesting to add, you're kind of playing Game 2. What you're really after here is conversion. Again, the same goal, max shareability, max comments, max on-target virality. That's always going to be the goal. Game 1 wants total virality. Everyone else wants on-target virality. Ideally, to measure this, you're also running a video-by-video tracker where every video you can attribute lead conversion down the ManyChat funnel, and we'll talk about that in the funnels module. Then you know which videos are performing and producing the best leads. You can double down on those. That's how you would build a system for this, right? So that was like a quick primer on the 5 games. If you're wanting authority and expertise, you're going to play Game 5. If you want categorical, like brand deal media game, it's probably going to be Game 2. If you're a brand and you have a physical product that can be an instant convert, it's going to be Game 3 or 4. Now, how do you win each game? We talked about that a little bit above. I'm just going to go one level deeper on each game really quick. The truth is, you can win at any of these games, and there's people winning at 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures in every game, but you cannot win all games on the same channel. And the reason why is because the type of content you make to play each game differs. The competitors you study within the niche who are playing those games differs. Most people fail on social media because they're playing one game with the strategy of another. They're not attracting the audience in the right way, and then they can't get their outcome that they want. So you need to decide which game you're playing. Personally, for me, on the Callaway marketing channels, I'm playing Game 5, but I can help you play any game. You just have to pick into it. If you're playing Game 1, the mainstream fame game, which honestly I don't recommend for anyone here, You would run this game if you want broad fame and you want to monetize via ad revenue. The best strategy to win is going to be massively applicable ideas, huge topics, huge TAM, max sensationalism, max shareability, max comments. If you're playing game 2, which a lot of people would choose to start playing if they don't have an offer, you would run this game if you want category fame and you want to monetize mostly via ad revenue. And you could also monetize via books and in-person speaking, but it's going to be like a media adjacent world. The best strategy to win here is also to have the widest TAM within the category, max sensationalism, max shareability, max comments. If you're playing game 3, run this game if you have an intuitive product to sell and you're not interested in scaling your own personal brand. These are the best 3 strategies to win. We kind of talked about these already. Option 1, you hire a single creator to run this for you that really runs the game 2 playbook for your channel. Option 2 would be you use this main channel as a utility showcase where you make mostly utility content, and then you just pay influencers who are playing category 1 and 2 to post for you. Option 3 would be to make an episodic social show, which is a really good way to like make your own IP-driven content that can get people into your world that works really well for social. If you're playing game 4, run this game if you have an explanatory product to sell and you're not interested in scaling your own personal brand. The 3 options to play this game are the same. You could hire a creator to run it, you can use the channel as utility and pay influencers, or you can do an episodic social show. Game 5, run this game if you need to accrue trust and expertise around yourself in order to sell your own products and services. If you sell anything that requires trusting you, the creator, to buy, you're playing game 5. The best strategy to win here would be massively applicable ideas within the target slice. You have to have something worth saying, and the value ramp has to lead to a relevant lead magnet to get their email. This is how you would win each game. Now, I want you to think of each game like a different sports league. The NFL, which is football, baseball, basketball, golf, hockey, these are different sports. Each one is similar in that they're a sport, but they have different rules, different teams, different players, different strategies. It's kind of a completely different thing. They all play on planet Earth, but they're completely different in almost every way. This is how you have to think of those games. Based on which game you're playing, you need to study the winners that are already winning in your niche. If you were in golf, you wouldn't study football teams on how they're winning. You would study other golfers and try to reverse engineer their strategy. It's the same thing here. The social media system that I'm going to walk through for the rest of this program will work across all 5 games because it's mostly triggering foundational psychology and data, but you're going to have to adapt which competitors, examples, and Lego bricks that you model your videos after based on the game you're playing. Now, just real quick before we wrap this video up, which game should you play if it were up to me? To give you some context, I spent the first 2 years doing social media playing game 2. I did Tech and AI game 2 on my main Callaway channels. I have over 1 million followers collectively. I generate over $1 million in annual revenue in brand deals from game 2. Although this was lucrative and I didn't want to shut it down completely, I realized that the most uncapped upside comes from playing game 5 or 3 or 4 if you have a product, physical product that you could sell. And that's what I'm running with Callaway Marketing. So depending on when you're watching this, the Callaway Marketing channels will have already blown up. I'm going to systematically explode and take over that category. If you're watching this right away, maybe it hasn't blown up yet. The point is, this is me taking on game 5. Here are my unfiltered thoughts for who would and wouldn't want to play each game. For game 1, the mainstream brand play, no business owner watching this should want to play this game. The competition is way too steep and the business model is way too weak. It's basically a popularity contest where you're playing the influencer game. The biggest con of this model is that the majority of the value made from your content accrues outside of your layer in the stack. Value really doesn't accrue at the attention layer. It either accrues at the platform layer or the ramped destination where the products are. Only a small sliver of value accrues at the influencer or the attention level. The attention level is just the way to ramp the attention. So if you're playing this game, AI is going to compete it away. I think that's a losing proposition. Game 2 is category fandom. So who should play this game? If you're starting social media without having a dialed offer, this is the game I recommend you starting with, because you can keep the rails narrow and focus on one topic. It'll allow you to build a personal brand that's recognizable the fastest. The con of doing this is that if you build broad in a category like marketing, you're going to struggle to niche back down when you do want to add an offer and shift to game 5. We've seen this over and over again. If you try to sell a social media growth offer to e-com operators, but you framed yourself as broad marketing, it's going to be very tough for you to convert that same audience. You may have to rebuild a new audience. This is because your initial audience will be wide but not deep. And so when you narrow your content, the majority of your existing audience will not engage and you'll have to churn through a lot of your followers to reset the algo. You're not going to want to do that. It's very common that what we see. So only certain categories playing game 2, like finance, tech, marketing, gaming, have lucrative enough brand deals to justify spending 3 years playing this game if you're just monetizing through brand deals. Most categories, they're only making couple 100K a year at the most on the upper end, and they're really working hard because the brands just aren't doing well enough to give high enough brand deals to make this worth it. So I would start here if you don't have a dialed offer and you want to get going on content, but quickly realize you need to narrow down your audience fast if you want to add an offer. Game 3, pretty clear who should play Game 3. If you have an intuitive product and you don't want to build a personal brand, this is the game you should play. To solve this, I'd consider building an in-house content pod with a cracked R&D lead, and we can talk about that on the one-on-one how you do that. That would be how you run this inside out. If you don't want to do this, you could just hire a creator to run Game 2 for you on this channel. And that's what I said right here. A better strategy would be to have your founder play Game 2 or Game 5 and then use influencer collaborations to replace the traffic from this game. Most of the time, intuitive products are playing a paid ads game and they're using organic as kind of like a hub on the utility side. I think there is a way to play organic, but you got to be strategic with how you position it. Game 4 is very similar to Game 3. If you have an explanatory product and you don't want to build a personal brand, this is the game that you're forced to play. You could also solve this with a content pod in-house. You could hire one person, you could hire a pod, you could partner with influencers, you could make this a utility account, you could do a social show. There's a lot of ways you could play this. If you're a founder and you want to have a faced personal brand and still drive people to explanatory products, you're going to want to play Game 5. And then you can use your product as the bottom of the funnel. All right, the last one is Game 5. In my opinion, this is the most valuable game to play right now. This is what you'll play if you have an offer that's dialed that requires the viewer trusting you in order to purchase, and you have enough experience and skills to actually deliver the information worthy of accruing expertise. Your goal here is very simple. It's just to accrue trust towards you or your company's personal brand from on-target viewers that will be interested in buying your offer. The good news with authority content in this game is that it's way easier to win with because the videos don't need to go as viral, and there's a formula that works consistently, and that's what I'm going to teach you in the rest of this program. Now, after going through all 5 of these games, most of you are going to want to play either Game 2 or Game 5. That was my experience and then what I find for most people. For the rest of this program, I'm going to optimize all the strategy talk accordingly around game number 2 and number 5, mostly game number 5, which is like a business owner that's driving to an offer. Game number 2, just in the educational sense, but I'm not really going for like broad on-target virality from a views perspective. We're going for conversion. If you're playing one of the other games, don't worry. All the Lego bricks and the systems that we go through is going to apply for you, but you're going to have to change what type of competitors you look at and the way you stack those bricks. I made this so it's modular, but most of the things I talk about are going to be for Game 5. The only difference between game number 2 and 5 is simply just the frame around idea selection, how value is transferred, and then mostly how trust accrues to your personal brand. Game 2, you can't really sell stuff. You're a huge name in the category, but they don't really trust you as someone to buy products from. Game 5, you design the content specifically so they trust you to buy. It's a different strategy. So before I end this video, just one more concept I want to cover is how to think about social media as a business owner. This is really a fundamental principle that I believe. Views do not equal dollars. Fundamentally, the difference between game number 2 and 5 is that if you're optimizing for views in game 2 or conversions in game 5, that's really the biggest difference. Intrigue or interest drives views, authority drives conversions. Personally, as a business owner, what I want is conversions. I don't really care about views. If I only get 1,000 views, but I get 900 people to buy, I'm happy. I don't need 100,000 views for the ego, right? And so views really does not equal dollars when it comes to content. Most business owners approach the social media games thinking they want max views because they see people like Mr. Beast on social and YouTube aiming for like 100 million views per video. And they think, oh, he's the biggest in the world. He's printing money. That's the way to do it. This is the wrong strategy for 99.9% of people. As a business owner with an offer, your goal is max on-target views. That's all you need. On-target views plus an aligned offer equals max dollars. This should be the creed that you live by. Just write this at the top of your paper. I don't need max views. On-target views plus aligned offer is all you need. If you're running a business, all you really care about is if a viewer is a potential buyer. They don't have to be a buyer today, but they have to have a pain point that could turn them into a buyer in the future, or else you really don't care if they watch. This means, like I said, 1,000 views with 500 buyers is actually better than 100,000 views with 50 buyers. There's a lot of people out here getting 100,000 views with 0 buyers, and they think that's good, but they're broke. That's not what you actually want when it comes to content. Optically and egotistically, this principle is hard to accept. It was hard for me to accept, but once you accept it, things get a lot easier because you realize you don't have to hit home runs on every single video. If I could, I would tell every business owner in the world this. If you have an offer and you have valuable expertise, play game 5. If you don't have an offer, but you do have valuable expertise, go build an offer and then play game 5. If you don't have an offer or valuable expertise, don't start with content. Go get valuable expertise, then come back and play game 5. If you don't have valuable expertise and don't want to listen to me, well, at least start with game 2 in a category you have extreme interest in so that you can eventually get to game 5. That's the TLDR from a business perspective. If you actually want to build a money machine, it's game 5. If you want to play the content game because you want fame and access, then it might be game 2. But I'm going to frame the rest of this stuff in terms of game 5 because that's really where a lot of you want to play. All right, that's all I wanted to say in this video. I know it was a bit long, but hopefully that framework on the 5 games was helpful. In the next one, we're going to go through the short form Lego bricks a little bit more. This is the core foundational framework for what I believe works best for content. So let's go to that next video now.